Ukraine's ambassador to South Africa says it's important that African voices play mediating roles in the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. Lyubov Abravitova updated the Cape Town Press Club on developments in her country and the diplomatic response from South Africa. Lindsay Dentlinger is covering the story for us. She joins us now live from Cape Town. So let's talk about the message today from the Ukrainian ambassador to South Africa, in particular about our government's stance on this war.
So, Shahan, she's had quite a busy day here in the mother city, starting off this morning outside the gates of Parliament, where the DA publicly lent its support to Ukraine and its people, but we'll talk about that later. And then, of course, as you say, at the press club, where she spoke for over an hour and fielded many questions about what she thought of South Africa's stance on the war in Ukraine. She told the gatherings that she had had no contact at all from any of South Africa's government officials, not from the president, not from any of his executive. But even though she was quite disappointed by the neutral stance that South Africa appears to have taken on this issue, she still feels that there is a role for South Africa to play, in particular for President Cyril Ramaphosa to play. And she says it's for all South Africans and Africans generally on the continent to stand up and take a stance on this conflict, because it is not just a war that's going to affect the West or affect European nations. It's going to be felt all the way here in South Africa, and that there are many consequences we may not have thought about, including the fact that all the money that Russia is now spending on this war, it will mean that there will be less money for that country to spend on projects on the continent as it usually does. And of course, there's those literally bread and butter issues, Shahan, like the price of bread, like the price of cooking oil, that South Africa is going to feel the pinch of if this conflict is not brought to an end. But here's what she told the press club earlier this afternoon.
The impact of this war is going to be globally devastating. You already feel through the prices on bread, cooking oil, diesel, petrol. But there is another dimension that you are not thinking maybe yet about. Apart from humanitarian, environmental, security in all its dimensions. It is something else. The direct losses from the war alone, including liquidated military equipment and casualties among personnel, have in the first 5 days of Russian war cost Russia about $7 billion United States dollars. On this, the loss of the direct losses from the war alone, including humanitarian lives alone, is forecast to account for $2.7 billion US dollars in lost GDP over the coming years.
And Lindsay, of course, last night we saw President Cyril Ramaphosa tweeting about his talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin. In that tweet, he also went on to say that they've been asked, as South Africa, to play a mediating role. What's the response from the ambassador about that?
Well, she says, firstly, she believes that President Cyril Ramaphosa can be a really good mediator in this particular situation. But she also points out that while war is active in that country, it will be very difficult to negotiate for peace. But she also has the view, Shahan, she says, even if South Africa were to take up a mediatory role, it first has to come down and make some acknowledgements about the situation there, that it is a full-blown war, that Ukraine is being attacked, a sovereign nation is being attacked. Ukraine is not going into Russia to attack that country. And then most importantly, Shahan, South Africa also has to speak to her government, speak to the representatives of her country here in South Africa. She said it was not good enough for South Africa only to speak to one side. We know the president has said that he has spoken to his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin, but as I said earlier, the Ukrainian ambassador saying that no one from our government has attempted to make any contact with her for whatever reason, whether to lend support, whether to offer any kind of support in any way. And so for it to be able to play a mediatory role, it would first have to make certain acknowledgements about the fact that this is a humanitarian crisis and that it actually has to literally get off the fence and take a position.
I do believe that President Ramaphosa is very influential mediator, experienced one, and I'm sure that he knows that he has to listen to both sides in terms of, as what he says, and names conflict. It's even painful for me to pronounce this.
And then, of course, the DA, including John Steenhuisen, breaking away from government's neutral stance on this matter. Why does he think it's actually fit to do so?
Well, he's following on from the DA in the province already earlier this week, saying that they were openly lending their support to Ukraine, and the leader John Steenhuisen saying today that he was in fact embarrassed by government's apparent, what it views as an apparent neutral stance, but John Steenhuisen saying by South Africa wanting to come across as if it's a neutral party in this matter. It was in fact, in his view, a tacit way of siding with the Russian Federation, forgetting that at the time Ukraine was also part of the USSR when Russia was an ally to South Africa in the days of apartheid, and he said he wanted to openly lend whatever support the DA could to the Ukrainian people, and that the debate that the DA has sponsored, which will be debated in the National Assembly on Tuesday, was going to be an attempt also to get the ANC MPs to openly express their views on this matter, and thought that it was not a good idea for South Africa to continually want to portray this view that it was neutral and that it had to openly come out and condemn the war and condemn what the Russian invasion was doing to Ukraine.
All right, we're going to leave it right there. Lindsay Dentlinger is in Cape Town.